Akasha, the Void, and why it matters to you. Well, 60 Skills here, again, talking about the issue of Akasha. Now, in terms of your magical, meditative, and yogic development, Akasha is literally the power of the void, or that thing out of which everything else comes. Now, it's not the ultimate nature of reality. That's what some people call nirvana, non-dual light, or if you're monotheistic, God. What Akasha is that next level down of reality that is this divine emptiness, sometimes described as complete darkness or complete light or alternating between the two, out of which duality springs. So the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, so on and so on and so on. All right, now this is a topic that's been discussed at length on the 60 Skills channel many times in the past, but I keep getting questions about it, so here it goes. Why is Akasha important to you? Okay, number one. In theory, hashtag theory, it allows you to pull an infinite amount of any energy out of it. So, again, as that source out of which everything else springs, in theory, if you have access to it, you can pull out any amount of anything else that you need. Now, as a practical matter, this becomes important because environmentally, depending upon the conditions and where you're at and so on and so forth, there's only so much vital force, so much mental energy, so much fire energy, so much lunar energy, so on and so on and so on available to you. Now, ritual magicians who generally don't have access to their own Akasha get around this by using timing and ritual or borrowed power. As an internal power practitioner, however, you can do this on your own. Now, let me be clear, this is not a free ride, and this part tends to get left out of the discussion. See, here's the thing. When you're working with Akasha, your ability to work with it is predicated off of the amount of vital force you have. Because Akasha is in turn draining upon vital force or that metabolic activity of the body. Now, as human beings, we actually have a tremendous amount of this available to us at pretty much any time. That said, anybody who's ever worked with Akasha directly has noted that it's very taxing on your vital force. And at some point, the amount of vital force you have is, generally speaking, the limitation on what you can do with Akasha. Now, also keep in mind, all right, I've never seen anyone successfully pull a large amount of, say, fire energy or the letter SCH out of the void in the middle of a raging thunderstorm by the seaside. It doesn't really work like that. But by being able to pull out of the Akasha, even though it does drain on your vital force to one degree or another, this allows you to work with things on your own timetable. So yes, is it helpful to have the right lunar alignments and doing all of this work during the hour of Saturn, etc., etc.? Absolutely, and it works perfectly well for the ritual guys. The catch is, they can't do this on the fly. As an internal power practitioner, you can. And this is one of the major differences between the two groups. Again, keeping in mind, most schools out there are in fact a combination of internal power practice and ritual practice. It's simply more efficient this way. Okay, so we've talked about the mechanics of Akasha and how it is, to one degree or another, draining upon your internal force, but it gives you flexibility on when and where you can do things because you're not limited by the ambient environment. All well and good. Okay, what is another thing you need to know about Akasha? Well, simply put, access to your own Akasha is basically your ghetto pass to enlightenment. So it's that stage that directly predates the enlightenment stage. So without having access to your own Akasha, that jump from the purely mental level of existence that most of us deal with on a daily basis to that enlightenment or non-dual level is just too damn big. And that's the reason why Intellectuals generally can't get there. Now, they can't get there because one of the basics behind how Akasha works is, interestingly enough, faith. Faith underlies Akasha. No faith, no Akasha. So, be very wary of the nihilists out there, because it essentially turns into a form of spiritual castration. That's an argument for another day, but do keep in mind that the deeper your faith is, generally speaking, the more access to Akasha you have. So, Akasha is that stepping stone to enlightenment, and that gets you just that much closer to it. It makes the jump from mental level processes to enlightenment far, far easier for most human beings. Okay, let's talk about another practical aspect of Akasha. Akasha in general has a penetrating and dissolving sensation. Well, where this becomes valuable is when you're dealing with the various entities out there. The subtle body these entities inhabit that allows them to engage with the phenomenal world is very susceptible to being dissolved by Akasha. Simply put, when you have access to your own Akasha upon demand, the spirits become very respectful of you. Why? Because you can send them away. And for whatever reason, it appears generating that body takes a lot of time and a lot of energy on their part. So they don't really want to go wasting that by ticking off somebody who has the ability to just randomly dissolve it at will. So, in many ways, having your own Akasha, or access to your own Akasha on demand, is a sign of adulthood in the esoteric world. Simply put, when you have your own Akasha, you have the ability to send many of the subtle forces in the world packing on demand. As a result, they don't tend to browbeat you as much, and they tend to be rather receptive to the idea of having a discussion with you, which previously they didn't have to because they could just show up and harass you into compliance. Again, as above, so below, and vice versa. There is a pecking order to the universe, and having Akasha is a big, big, big part of that. So, these are some things involving Akasha that makes having access to it and your ability to direct it upon command very valuable to you. Now, there are a variety of ways of generating your own Akasha. The single-pointed focus exercises by themselves can generate small amounts of it. The releasing exercises generate a little bit more. Ritual work, when properly leveraged, can generate some, but as usual, you are also reliant upon the forces of the egregores surrounding that stored energy to give you your access to it. So that's not always the best way forward. Certain things like running the micro or macrocosmic orbits until it results in Kundalini can give you access to your own Akasha as well. Kundalini in general is positively associated with having access to your own Akasha. And finally, there is the stacking of the elements within the body to generate equilibrium, which, as many of you know, is my favorite approach. So, if you'd like to learn more about how to do this upon command, check out SixtySkills.com or go to Perseus Arcane Academy and look up either the Master Course under 60 Skills or the Kabbalah course under 60 Skills. And you can learn all about how to do this on your own. Otherwise, as per usual, train hard and be well.